I'm Will Hedrick.
And I'm Jordan Schaffer.
And this is Dog Ears and Timestamps, a book club podcast.
Dude, I don't think this book would translate to a movie very well.
I don't think so either.
Which is unfortunate because I do like it.
Maybe
like
a 6-episode miniseries.
I just think it'd be hard to make the love interest be writing things down as like his main form of communication. I just feel like that'd be very slow. Maybe as a 6-part series, it might be okay.
Yeah.
That's the only part I have an issue with.
I feel like we'd have to miss all of that.
Or
like we would introduce the idea that, okay, this is how they communicate. And then we don't see those interactions except for like her own internal dialogue in bits and pieces. Like we don't see the full interactions like we do in the book.
And maybe it would just like imply that they fell madly in love and she does a lot more on her own and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
More of those conversations that they have when she's figuring out would have to be conversations that she has with other people, like Blue Fingers or something like that. Maybe one of her serving girls, if, they decide to make them a more spoken character.
Yeah.
That would be how they did that.
I like it, though. I think it's been a good read, and...
Well, we're not done yet.
No, I know.
We got 20 more chapters.
Yeah, and honestly,
we've fall apart for all we know.
I know we've been splitting it up in 20 chapter increments, so it should break up well. But it's been splitting up really really well for the audio. It's like 8 hours every time.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know I said this last week, but I really like the narrator. She does a really good job.
That's good.
Yeah.
Can't imagine there's much worse than a bad narration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really.
You're just at the behest of it. Like, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, there was. Do you remember Hiroshima in high school? That book.
Yeah.
There was an audiobook narrator for that book, and every time he would do any S sound, he would whistle really loud. It was awful, man. It was brutal. It got me through the book though, but it was just like, ugh, this book sucks. I don't know why I hated it because it didn't seem like it'd be all that bad.
I wouldn't say that I enjoyed it. We may have had this conversation before, but I was extremely. I never wanted to stop reading it. I think because it was a summer reading book.
Yeah,
and it was that and House on Mango Street, which we also always talk shit about. But I didn't I read Hiroshima maybe in 2 days, and then House on Mango Street took me even though it's maybe 400 pages less than Hiroshima.
Yeah.
It took me 2 weeks to get through that garbage.
Yeah, that one was just not fun. I don't know why I didn't enjoy Hiroshima. I just wasn't, I don't think, emotionally ready for it, maybe. I don't know. I wasn't ready to just experience it with them. Because now I think I'd really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't know why now I'm ready for all this dark story, but...
Well, you've got more adult context. Your interests have broadened and... other stereotypical things that I could say.
They should have shown it to me in college. No. Right. Waited till college to expose me to that.
Did they have a required reading in college? I guess if you took a literary course or something, then duh. But
yeah, I mean, but it was usually just for the semester or that class, Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna be reading this, and
because I only ever took English 1301 and 1302 before I dropped out.
Yeah, we had reading, at least in my English classes. I always remember we had a novel. We oh shoot, I can't remember his name. Brian Cranston No, that's not right. Doesn't matter. It's just every time I hear his story, his book, it's A Devil in the White City. And
that sounds familiar.
Yeah, I think it's about this murderer. And then this other guy that's at the World's Fair in Paris.
Oh, you've talked about this before.
Yeah, and he writes a book. I had to read that one for college, and then 2 years later, I had to read another one of his books for a college class, which was him traveling around the United States. Yeah, he was pretty popular. So if I remember who that is, I'll let you know. But, right. When did you find time to read? You got sick this week.
Yeah, I tried to get ahead of it and read a little bit. I think I read maybe 4 or 5 chapters on Thursday.
Yeah, I actually was re-listening to it quite a bit on Thursday as well. Yeah. Pretty much after we did the podcast, a day went by, and then I was I really want to get back into the book, but I kind of want to re-listen to it all, just. I don't know, without any time constraints, because I figured, it might change it a little bit,
Right.
And then, and I really started listening, and it didn't really change it, honestly. I got a few more details, but it wasn't game changing, I don't think, for the story. But
right. Yeah, definitely. I wanted to try and take it at a more measured pace just because I hate cramming it all in at the end.
Yeah, we brought that up.
But, football's back. And then I went out of town. I went to Houston Saturday for an Astros game. So that was my whole day. And by the time I got back, I had developed the cough, but I was just like, oh, whatever. I've been traveling all day. So, I'm just tired. Mm-hmm. And I wake up, I go to work. It gets worse and worse and worse. And then I tried to read like another 5 or 6 chapters when I got home on Sunday. And I was like, I just got to go to sleep. Wake up for work on Monday, and I was like, I'm just not going to work. It was awful. And then I could barely concentrate, so I couldn't get a whole lot of reading done Monday either. And then yesterday, whenever I finally, started climbing out of the valley of sickness, I was able to get, 10, 12 chapters done, and I finished the last 4 today.
Okay, nice.
So if that's why my voice sounds funny, it's because I've been dying. Not dying. I've just had a really, bad cough and scratchy throat.
Is reading a good way to get through your sickness, you think?
Whenever I didn't have headaches, yeah,
okay.
It was a nice way to quiet way to pass the time because I didn't always want to be watching something bright lights on the screen or having to concentrate on a game or something like that. So I whenever I wasn't napping, reading was good. If I again didn't have the headaches.
Nice. I was thinking about that actually as when you said you were sick this week. I was like, I wonder if reading's any fun at all, like when you're sick, because
definitely depends on how.
Yeah.
Like if you're just miserable, then nothing's gonna be good. Like you might turn the TV on just to have literally anything happening. That you're not just like laying in the dark.
Yeah, that's kind of like the bittersweet truth about like cable is if I had it, it would always be on because I'd just be waiting to catch something.
Right.
And when
you do have cable.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I just never access it. And oh shoot, now I'm gonna go home and turn it on.
Now that
on Animal Planet.
Let you realize the monster that exists.
Yeah, because I could just leave it on Animal Planet or Discovery or Travel or something, just like and just get sucked
easy to
into
find something mindless. Yeah.
Yeah, I get sucked into HGTV too. But anyway,
that's why that channel exists because everybody does.
Everybody does. Yeah. Yeah, dude, we should. I wish we were on that show on the Travel Channel.
That would be cool.
We could travel and read books. We could meet Stephen King and like talk about his books and stuff.
We could meet up with him in Maine.
Yeah, that would be dope. Why can't I remember this author?
Brandon Sanderson.
Brandon Sanderson, yeah, because I was thinking Bryan Cranston. Brandon Sanderson. I wonder where he lives. We can meet up with him because he's written a bunch.
Yeah, he's very prolific.
You think he's like? When I imagined in my head like George R.R. Martin, it was not who he turned out to look like,
Mm-hmm.
What do you think Brandon Sanderson looks like?
I think he just looks like standard white dude.
Yeah, I feel like he could look like one of my brothers. Like if I had a second brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Probably a little, it wouldn't surprise me if he was kind of nerdy looking, like in a stereotypical way. I feel like he almost has to be just because he's written like a zillion fantasy books.
Yeah.
So like,
I'm not going to look him up either. That's how I want to imagine him. So, like in this little section, I feel like sort of the big things that happened. I guess one thing we already touched on was Ciri and the God King kind of building their relationship. She teaches him.
They start interacting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she learns that they cut out his tongue. The priest cut out his tongue because he's used as.
They don't want him to be able to use it.
Yeah,
he's got such an insane amount of breath.
Yeah, I think they don't want him to. Yeah, because he could.
He could theoretically just do anything. Yeah.
Yeah, even though they say he can't. I guess it's literally just because he can't talk.
Yeah.
So they make it so that he can't.
Because
that doesn't make sense.
The returned, like the other returned, at least they believe, and it must be true because at some point one of them would have been curious in the last 300 years, right? But apparently they can't they can't be awakeners,
right?
And that's really the only way to use your biochroma, except for the sensory effects that you get from it.
Yeah.
Would be to either awaken something or to be able to create the lifeless, which is also just a more advanced form of awakening.
And you think that they can't awaken things because they just get their tongue ripped out?
Well, none of the returned have had their tongues ripped out.
Oh.
And the other gods like Light Song and Blushweaver and them, they just talk about how they can't be awakeners.
But they can do something grand with their breath, right? Like, don't they do something really big and grandiose in like the beginning when they were like welcoming the princess to the
They don't do anything.
I thought they did something crazy when Siri came to their...
Nah, they just put all the lifeless out on display.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was just controlling the lifeless.
Yeah, it was just like... Yeah, and all that is just like, each of the 4 that have the commands for the lifeless are like, okay, we'll go stand.
Yeah,
just go, make a parade. And, but they've talked multiple times about how none of the returned have the capability to do awakening.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And it must be true because, like I said, within the 300 years of the kingdom having existed in the way that it does with the returned gods, one of them would have been curious and tried at some point.
Yeah, you'd think. I mean, I've pretended.
They can't be stopped by their priests.
I mean, I've tried to do magic. Like, you're not gonna stop me. I was gonna figure it out.
And we know that it doesn't exist.
I know. So, I mean, and
for them to know that it exists and they have an extreme amount of the mana
to do it, and then to not try.
Someone's
it doesn't
tried
even make sense.
And not been able to do it.
For sure.
So I think that we can take that to be a truth. So then, in theory, although the nature of the God King is a little bit different than the Returned, because the returned gods, the iridescent tones, were people at a point that died extraordinary deaths of a normal person and came back. But the God King is born as a stillborn child and then brought back from that to be a returned. So there's something more specific about how the God King is created. And
yeah, the dark truth.
Like they also said that the returned can't have kids, but then the God King can. So there's, and for all we know, none of the things that they're telling us are true. And that's part of the revelation that we get. There's definitely some things that aren't true. There's something that we just, or even just that we don't have any knowledge on, whether true or false. That will be revealed at some point, because we got to figure out what's the priest's game. Why can't they trust the God King to just be a benevolent king or whatever?
Oh yeah.
How did Peacegiver give what Peacegiver's gift was to have, one, end the war, but then 2, he had all this breath that he was able to then bestow upon the then successive God King line. So how did he do that when that doesn't make any sense? And so there's a lot of things that are written off as religion in this world, but that matter for us because our story is one of political intrigue. And so what are the inner workings of those stories and myths?
Yeah, it's funny that the 2 of the main characters that we kind of deal with don't even like politics, but like the whole baseline of the story is kind of political, because Siri, she's never cared about anything formal, like that. And then same with Lightsong, right? Yeah, and he's just the kind of flippant.
But it's often the case that the people who are seemingly most ill-equipped to deal with whatever the story is make the best vehicle for that story to happen.
Right, because they have the most balanced view of the common people. Yeah. That's they brought it up even why Siri, or at least Siri, was kind of self-reflecting. I think why she was a good choice and why Viviana probably wouldn't have worked out as a good.
Because Viviana would have never gotten over any of the political part of it. She would have never, approached the God King in any way, and so this interaction would have never happened. Yeah. And so, whatever this resolution is going to be, where we overthrow the priesthood or whatever it is that's going to happen, and then all of humanity lives in harmony. Not being afraid of biochroma or whatever. Whatever the resolution is going to be, would be extremely unlikely to have happened if Viviana had fulfilled the proposed duty. Yeah, instead of Siri,
which is kind of cool. It makes me have. I mean, I know this is obviously a story, but I like it when stuff kind of just works out, even though it seems wrong. It's just like it was something made their dad do that, and.
Oh, it was because he loved Viviana more than he loved Siri.
Yeah, and ever since that moment, Viviana brings it up. That just ever since that moment when she was kind of cast aside and not her purpose was taken from her, she's just been slowly on a decline, and now I don't know if I said it already, but we just sort of left her in a really bad spot before we ended the little section,
because her whole party falls apart. She finds out that mercenaries she had been working with that were, presumptively had been hired by the spy master that she first went to go see whenever she enters the city, were working for somebody else this whole time.
Yeah, they're double crossing.
That had hired them to kidnap her.
And keep tabs on her and everything.
Yeah, and so, that gets brought out, and so she escapes from them and is now just living in the slums in the Iridan, not Iridan, that's the Raven. The Idris, in the Idris quarter.
And she does learn a little bit of awakening, which is kind of a big turn for her because, it shows her discipline as a character and how quickly she learns and how like smart she is, because she picks it up pretty quick and it's almost instinctual, it seems, because she just sort of told that.
Well, even in the moment that she finally breaks through and is able to do it, she realizes that it's just like how she changes her hair color or grows it. And so the literal process of recognizing that you're using the breath as a part of you in the way that Siri always also references what it's like for her to grow her hair. It's just like a muscle that you flex or whatever. So what Vivina figures out is that it's just the breath is a part of you and you use it in the same way that you would move your arm or that you blink or whatever. And so when you have that realization, then you can do it. But then she's also practiced in it being a more conscious flex of muscle because she has grown her hair before and she has changed the color of it before.
Yeah. And so, she learns a little bit of like awakening, even though she kind of had cast it off as being something that like she could never do. Not that she could never do, but something that she wouldn't do. That's what I meant, that just because it was blasphemous. And that was really cool. I thought, at least. And
well, she's left with no choice.
Yeah.
She's already had to reconcile different parts of herself and her religion against the reality that she was in, being in this strange city where, one, you can't really openly practice that religion, and certainly where she was trying to blend in and not let just everybody on the street know that she was a princess from Idris.
Yeah, which she was kind of blowing her cover for that anyway, because she was kind of losing control of her hair, it seemed like, and she was wearing a pretty flashy gown, right?
Well, because she had no choice. Like, to have brown robes was just not something that could be purchased in Hallandren. And so she, tried to find the most modest dresses that were possible, but the only way to do that were to buy foreign dresses, which were expensive and therefore flashy. But they would be like solid white.
Yeah.
And, cut below the knee, and like no neckline and stuff like that. So, she was putting modesty above color more than anything. And that was the only way to get it, or to get these fancy dresses from Pankal or wherever the other places are.
Yeah, and I guess being in that city, that is like the city of colors, so I guess they have more access to all the colors. So it's a little more common.
And she does say at one point that she realizes by trying not to stand out, or by trying to stand out, you end up not standing out, because the whole city is just like throw up of colors. Everybody is trying so hard to be different that it ends up that nobody's different at all. Everybody's just got this palette, just, people just throwing buckets of paint all over the place effectively.
Yeah, you'd think it'd be better if they had like different outfits, but I guess this isn't like
the only thing that ends up standing out is the quality of the clothing.
Right. Yeah, this isn't the type of climate, I guess, for a whole bunch of different outfits.
Yeah.
Because
she does constantly remark on how she wishes that, or she envied the Hallandren women and their lack of modesty because it's so fucking hot and humid, and she's like covered up,
Yeah. Ugh, dude, that would suck.
Yeah, it'd be like wearing a hoodie any of the last 2 months outside here.
Yeah, I remember I had an issue with, like, I was trying to figure out the right deodorant so that I wouldn't, like, have sweaty pits. And I was wearing, like, a hoodie in the summer, and people were like, why are you wearing that? And I was like, oh, I like it. I just didn't want people to see my sweaty pits.
Right.
And, yeah, but I figured that out. But, Siri's been a really cool character. She's like,
she's finally developed into something that I care about.
Yeah, you like her? Who do you like better, Siri or Vivina, you think?
Siri.
Yeah.
I find myself more frustrated with Vivina. Even whenever she would have those moments of self-reflection, she would then very quickly still be like, well, no. And then like looking down on everybody else because of her religion and stuff. Obviously, all of that was to build up this character that could then fall in the way that she has and that have greater meaning because of that. So cool, I get it, whatever. But it's, frustrating to go through that process.
Yeah, because that's sort of been it's all just been down. So it's hard going down with her when she was at the top.
Right.
Yeah. But Siri's sort of just been, I mean, she's kind of always been true to herself, and then it's just always worked out. I guess that's she's had development, a little, like she's
definitely realized, and she believed it from the beginning that she was in and over her head, but then certainly when she realized that there was not really anything to fear from Susebron, and that it fell into step with her new royal life, being waited on in the way that she is, and being able to request to go listen to a storyteller or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, that's been a good
when
change
she's able
for
to
the
fall
story.
into accepting that sort of extravagance, then she got sort of comfortable. But then she starts realizing that, well, no, something's going on here, and I need to do something about it. And certainly when she starts caring for Susebron, she is then like, well, the God King dies after they produce an heir, and he's not deserving of being killed by his priesthood.
Yeah.
And so she is being, wanted to be put into action. And then also, of course, she doesn't want Hallandren to go fight Idris, her kingdom, and all that sort of stuff. So she's got a lot of motive that is finally being brought to her forefront.
Yeah.
And that's really the only growth that she's gone through.
You think she's
realizing that she might be kind of capable, or being able to believe in herself to do these things that she had never even considered before.
She's the Warbreaker.
I think that that's relatively obvious, yeah.
Yeah. Her over Vivina.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think Vivina is the one that's on the cover?
No.
Because on the cover it had a girl with white hair, right?
It's like bluish white.
Oh, okay. Isn't white usually when they're like embarrassed?
No, it's usually when they're like scared.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of why I was thinking it was Vivina, because that's where we left her. We left her like scared and dying, and not dying, but yeah, I guess kind of dying.
Right.
Yeah. I'm excited to see her adaptability as a character. Like you said, she's got to go through her whole arc as a fully developed character, and falling with her has kind of sucked, but pretty soon she's going to round that corner. I assume, I kind of hope she does. I don't want her to just keep sinking down and then die or fail. That'd be the twist I was looking for that I was talking about last episode. Something that we never expect, but
it has to be. I
don't think it will be
the
that
twist
way.
has to be.
Because
it's not even a twist. It's just like, what is the deal with Vasher still?
Yeah.
What is his deal? We still don't know. 2/3 through, which is fine because we know what several other people's deals are. So, we've got enough moving story-wise that it's not frustrating, but it's still like he's so obviously pivotal to the way that the story progresses. So why can't we know anything about him yet?
Yeah, I mean, short of him like saving Vivina from like the
that's what I sort of thought was going to happen
or something.
Whenever, I don't think he's going to care about that. I think that I thought
he's a gentleman.
No, he's not. He's a murderer.
I know.
I think that he, or at least what I was thinking was going to happen was that whenever she escapes from him and then goes and finds Denth and Tonks and her mercenaries that she'd been working with, and realizing that they're not, or their mission wasn't what they had led her to believe it was. They exactly are who they are. They're mercenaries. They never hid that from her. She just believed that they were under her employ, and
she never paid him though, right?
Well, she paid him using the money that she had from Lemix, because they took all of the resources from Lemix's house. But so whenever that reveal happens, I thought that maybe Vasher would come in at that point.
Yeah. We
would have the fight between the mercenaries and Vasher, which was something that was, being sort of telegraphed as happening at some point. And then that would be, now that Vasher becomes aware, well, it's not just that you're hiring them. They were obviously using you. And now that I can see that they're my enemies and they were also your enemies. So enemy of my enemy is my friend. So, but I also need you to stop causing trouble. So I'm going to take you back into captivity, but I won't kill you. Just like that sort of relationship where like we're still like sort of enemies, but I can see that you aren't actively working against me. So now we move in the same direction. I thought that that's what was going to happen. Obviously, it didn't.
Yeah.
But Vasher is definitely going to get involved with Viv and A again because they're the ones on the outside of the court.
Right.
And so we need, obviously the people that are on one side of the story are going to meet up again at some point, and then at the climax of the story meet the people on the other side, which is, Ciri and Lightsong and I guess Susabran, and Bluefingers is relatively involved.
Yeah, how do you like Lightsong? You think he's cool?
He's still the best character.
Yeah, he's still
easily.
Good.
Yeah.
He's been a lot of fun, especially like as his relationship with Ciri has been growing.
Well, I mean, I don't know that it's been growing at all. They've only interacted now 3 times.
Yeah, I know, but they have a relationship, I guess, now. That's what I like. It's just that the characters are meeting, I guess. Maybe that's all it is.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely, I do like the 2 interactions that they have post, the initial ceremony whenever she's finally allowed to leave the palace, and, they have a court meeting, and he walks by her and talks to her. That was literally just the first interaction. Nothing happens there. Yeah. But then the second 2 interactions are entertaining, and I like them because it was like, okay, well, so this is, the forming of the alliance. This is how the story progresses inside the court. Mm-hmm. But even then, it was still just like Lightsong getting Ciri up to speed on, what to expect here in court, and, mm-hmm. How she should think about handling herself. And then the storytelling thing, which was just her getting some answers about, how the God Kings died, but not even really the answers she was looking for. Just an answer that, okay, so there is an official party line answer as to why the God Kings die, but that's obviously not the truth. Yeah. So now I need to find the truth. But she was already looking for the truth, so it was kind of pointless in a weird way.
Yeah, and Lightsong's past life was a detective kind of, so that's came up as a little bit relevant, right? So
yeah, but not during those interactions I was talking about. No. During something different.
No,
but just his own chapters, yeah.
Yeah, he'll be good for
He was something.
Yeah.
Are there detectives in this world?
No, probably just like a lawman.
Yeah. But
a lawman,
something like that. Yeah, it seems to be the thing. At least he finds himself to be skilled in those practices.
Yeah. Who do you think they will say that the word Warbreaker will be written in the last?
We'll get a titular line at some point.
Yeah.
I
want.
Don't care.
I want one.
Depending.
What happens? I'm gonna text you.
I would say that most of the time, I find that to be stupid.
I love it every time. Every time I'm just like, yes, there it was. I was waiting for the title.
Probably almost half the time, it's just whatever. I'm just like, oh, titular line. Okay, cool. And then 51% of the time, so literally most of the time, I'm like, God, that was so forced and stupid. But, so, I mean, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, every time in Aragon, I was like, Aragon. Oh, yeah. No. The title.
Name.
Yeah, man. I'm not. I like how much hype we've been given this book. The build up for the whole year, and then reading it. It's been a good read. I have another Brandon Sanderson book that I'm reading along with Kenneth. That's a good read too. The audio, the narrator's not as good, or maybe I'm just not used to it because of it's different than the other one. So I'm just getting used to that one, but. I have the Kindle versions too, so maybe I'll just hop in in that one on Kindle and get into the characters. But yeah, no, I've been enjoying his writing so far, and I think I'm into the into the the universe, the Brandon Sandersons, just like Neil Gaiman, whenever he comes out with something new, I want to check it out. I think
right.
There's a Stephen King book that I saw today, the Sleep Master. No, it's the sequel. It's like the sequel to The
Shining.
The Shining.
Yeah, they're making a show
with Ewan McGregor in it.
Yeah, that's I saw that commercial during the game the other day, and I was like, well, at first I was like, okay, Ewan McGregor, I love Ewan McGregor, and then it's like Stephen King, and I was like, okay, that's cool, that's gonna probably be really good. And then he's like, I always called it The Shining. He's got that line where he's talking to the little girl or whatever, and I was like. So is that just another one of those things that is pervasive throughout the Stephen King universe where they call psychic ability The Shining or whatever? And then at the end of the commercial, it says the sequel to The Shining, or based off the book that is the sequel to the best-selling book, The Shining. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know that there was a sequel, or like even like a sequential story.
Well, yeah, he wrote it so much later, you know, like he wrote it. I want to say like just a couple of years ago. So yeah, like not even that long.
Okay, yeah,
so,
that's definitely
like 2013.
I didn't realize that then.
Yeah, so it's been some time, but I think that's kind of cool. Yeah, revisiting his old works, especially as he's developed as an author. I'm sure he hasn't changed too much, but everybody gets better, especially at the craft that he's been doing for his whole life.
Right.
So I bet that's a lot of fun too.
I love Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, the movie looks awesome. So I think that's why I dove in to find the book, but.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of honestly why I was thinking that this one wouldn't be good for a movie. Full circle, but
I don't think that it would work in a movie because there's too much. Whenever you've got these sort of like political,
that's what it is.
Dramas, there's a lot of time that needs to be spent to build up to different story beats.
A lot of history, a lot of backstory. Exactly, the story beats.
And to do that in an hour and a half, hour 45, or even like movies run long these days. 2.5, 3 hours.
Right.
I don't think that that's enough. I mean, obviously, somebody very talented could do it, but I think that it would be better suited to like a 5 or 6 episode miniseries, 45-minute episodes each or whatever.
That would be cool. I would enjoy that a lot, I think. It'd be cool to hear them like, awakening things and using their voice and see them doing their hair. Like that would be a cool visual effect.
Yeah.
The hair growing and changing and
It'd just be like when Tonks is doing all her Animagus stuff in Harry Potter,
but in this
except
one,
better looking because that movie's now like 1,000,000 years old.
Yeah, that would be a thing. It'd be better looking, and it's like a pivotal element. It happens a lot. She's like
right, yeah.
Time, so she should learn to fight with that. That'd be cool. Just throw her hair.
Right. Takes up too much energy.
Oh yeah, that's true. She'd have to be snacking the whole time.
Right.
Give her like a protein shake and then.
Right. Get some pre-workout.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? Do you have anything else you want to say about the book?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, we left Vivana in a really poor situation, and Siri is worried about her newfound crush's
well-being,
soon demise. Yeah, because. I mean, they're both. Well, both their safety is going to be gone as soon as they have an heir. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I mean, really, just
there's so much left to be revealed.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. For
nothing has been revealed.
No,
except for the fact that things are going to be revealed.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is obvious whenever you go into any narrative. Like, obviously, there's going to be things I don't know, and this thing's going to be revealed. Though that's how narratives work. But even just in say that you're like totally invested in the narrative. You get 2/3 through, and still all that you know is that there's something yet to be revealed.
Right, you're waiting for the big thing to happen.
And several things, because we've got one, what is Vasher's deal? I'm going to keep screaming about that. What the fuck is the deal with Vasher? 2, what is the deal with all the underground stuff happening in the court? Like the literal underground stuff?
Yeah.
All the gods know that there are tunnels, or the majority of the gods know that there are tunnels under some of the individual palaces. But do they know that they're being networked in any way? Or is that something that just their priesthood is doing, not even against them, but, as a sort of subterfuge move in line with the God King's priesthood? Because they're all like different countries almost in the different god palaces.
Yeah, the gods are so stupid, dude.
But they seem to be like interconnected. I guess you would assume, just from a hierarchy standpoint, that the God King's priests have ultimate control over the priesthood, and then the individual god priests, run their own individual portion of the church or whatever. So do they answer to the God King's priesthood? If the God King's priesthood was like, all right, let's expand these tunnels so that we can all communicate a little bit easier and move the pieces of our greater, plot. So is there something happening there? Or is that because Vasher was interested in the tunnels? That's why he broke into Mercy Star's place.
Oh, the tunnels will be important.
Yeah, and that's obviously what Light Song is caught up on right now.
That'll be how Ciri and Vivenna meet back up, like Tyrion and Jaime.
Yeah, well, certainly now that Vasher knows the tunnel system and where that connects, presumably we can assume that he followed it that night to figure out where it connects to the main city, so that he can get in and out a little bit more easily.
Yeah, that sounds like a good.
So whenever he and Vivenna meet back up and become unsteady allies, they'll go through those tunnels, and that's how they get into the court, to the climax of the story, when we all come together.
Yeah.
I'm
excited. I'm excited for the sister reunition. the reuniting of the sisters. I think that'll be cool. I don't know if it'll actually be like them coming together, because I mean, Ciri seemed pretty happy, so like if everything works out, I think she's gonna stay queen. Right? Is she queen?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the thing is that they have to overthrow the priesthood.
Right.
Whatever the current status quo is.
Religion.
Even if it's not necessarily overthrowing the entirety of the priesthood, but overthrowing the ones that are making the way that they're just, keeping the status quo. The whole, whenever we get the new heir, we kill the old god, we make the new heir silent, and we just continues to be a figurehead so that we can control everything.
Yeah, we control the message. We tell the people what he says.
Yeah. I just don't know what the secret is. And what is Vasher's deal? Those are the things.
Maybe with the sword that can think. If
Nightblood,
you give him to the king, he can then communicate and use his...
Well, Vivenna could talk with she didn't talk back, but she could hear the sword and resisted its temptation, which is why Vasher was like, oh, okay. Like he gave like a surprised humph. Like, oh, you didn't succumb to the temptation of Nightblood, so I guess you're not an awful person that needs to be killed.
Yeah, you don't suck. You're okay.
Right, like you pass this litmus test of, are you worthy?
Right.
Whatever it is. The sword was evidently created to kill evil people. There's some bit wherever he and Vasher are talking, and he's talking about whoever it is that created him. And he's like, she created me to kill evil people, we should go see her. And I want to let her know what a good job I've been doing.
Just like the happiest.
But then Vasher is like, you forget that we killed her. But then he just ignores that. So I don't know. Is there some sort of, I don't know, whatever. What is the deal with Vasher?
What's the deal with Vasher?
I think that's the biggest question of the book, period. What is the deal with Vasher?
We're going to learn it. I mean, we have to.
We've only got 20 chapters left, yeah.
Unless there's another book that we don't know
including
about.
the epilogue. No, there isn't one.
They're good.
This one's standalone. Evidently, all of his works are, at the very least, like loosely connected.
Oh, that's cool.
Like they exist in a mythos, but then they have their own range of mythos within the greater mythos.
Yeah, like they're.
I was looking at a chart the other day, and I was like, seems like a bunch of fans just trying to come up with bullshit.
Yeah, and then when he looks at it, and he's like, "Oh, they did their homework." Yeah, sure, that's what I did.
Yeah, right.
I don't have very similar ideas, and
right,
that's not what it is. It's not just a coincidence.
It wasn't just fun for me to throw in the Man in Black. No,
right? Yeah, exactly.
Let's instead say yes, it is an interconnected universe.
Yeah,
because fucking Marvel ruined all of fandom by making us all think that things have to be connected.
Is that what they did?
No, so yeah, the MCU was the first time that anything like that really happened, where everything became interconnected.
Oh yeah, with all the origin
with the purpose of getting to the end goal of Avengers,
and then Endgame,
and and so now we're going to be moving into Phase 5 or whatever it is, moving away from the now original Avengers, but with that sort of like seeding of ideas and themes so that everything can come to a head finally over the course of like 15, 16 years, probably the greatest cinematic undertaking ever. But that is now the standard. And so all universes have to be that way, at least in fandom eyes.
Of course, yeah.
Everybody's like, well, because everybody wants everything to be connected because it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a conspiracy theory kind of.
Right.
It's that same vibe. It's like I know a little bit more than you do. I'm like on the inside. I know it all.
Right.
I mean, not like a know-it-all vibe, but it's like I'm in the know.
Right.
know?
And well, certainly that sort of thing has happened before. Like we talked about with Stephen King, you know, everything more or less emanates from the Dark Tower, right? The Dark Tower is like the hub of the Stephen King universe. Yeah. And that's where like everything comes from, is what I've heard. Yeah. More or less, you know, no, that's a pretty theory. Good. But, and while obviously Stephen King's very popular, he's nothing compared to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which literally has like billions of people watching the movies constantly. And so that's popularized the idea of an interconnected universe to an obscene degree where now, like I said, it's just that's the standard for entertainment. Everything has to be connected. And so that's what I think is probably more of what's been done with Brandon Sanderson's works, is that there's not actually an overarching universe. There's maybe individual mythoses in a couple of different series, and that's why some of them are series and some of them aren't. But I don't think that they're all super connected.
And I'm sure it's easy to write just a little thing to like throw a bone to the fans, you know, and then make them really like, oh, they really are connected. Did you see that one part of chapter 37? And then maybe later you expound
upon that. Like that's sort of what happened with the Legend of Zelda series.
Oh, and Harry Potter too. Yeah, she just left Easter eggs and then built on them.
Yeah, but even that was a singular narrative.
Oh, true. Like, so what do you mean for the Zelda series? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Like, at least until like 2012 or whenever they came out with Hyrule Historia, which is a novel, or not a novel, but like a large book that just talks about everything historically for Hyrule. All those games were individual entities.
Oh, cool, yeah.
None of them were sequential. The first time that any of them were sequential is when Majora's Mask came out. It's the only time that any game was, up until that point, a direct sequel of a previous Zelda game. Would, you know, Ocarina of Time leads directly into Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
And then even then, it didn't happen again for several games until they came out with A Link Between Worlds, the 3DS game. That's a direct sequel to Zelda 2, Adventure of Link. But those are the only two instances of any games being directly connected story-wise.
Yeah, the only other ones are just like allusions to the like hero of old.
Right, yeah, the hero of time. Like everything's just a legend, right? And so, you know, whatever. But then in like 2012 or whenever it was, I can't remember, they came out with Hyrule Historia to celebrate like the 25th anniversary of Zelda or whatever. And it has a canon timeline. Okay. And it has diverging paths. Like, what if Link doesn't defeat Ganon in Ocarina of Time? Well, then that brings these games into play, like Twilight Princess, where Ganon is running the show, you know, from the start.
Yeah.
Or does defeat Ganon. So then we go down the Majora's Mask route. And then, you know, it splits a couple of ways. And even whenever they put that time out, fans were like, no, that's impossible because of this and this and this and this and this. You know, people who have way more time than the developers do to come up with that shit. But, like, where was I going with that? So, like, just those sorts of things can, if you have like different Easter eggs just built in for yourself as fun, like I imagine Stephen King did with the Man in Black in the beginning, which is like, well, this is fun for me. Yeah. To put this recurring character in there, it gives me like a totem that I can go back to, and you know, a good narrative thing for me as a writer. They did that probably with Zelda. It was like, well, you know, if we reference the hero of time and we can, you know, it's just, you know, it's a fun internal thing that is an Easter egg for fans. But then you get so far down the line, you know, 20 games later, 50 books later, whatever, then you can be like, well, now I have so much material that fuck it. Yeah, it's an interconnected universe, and now I can make it that way. Yeah. And so I imagine that that's what King did.
Yeah, it seems like it's always...
Certainly when he was coked out of his mind, he wasn't thinking, how do I make this a universe? You know?
I mean...
He doesn't even remember writing Cujo.
That's cool. That's kind of cool. I mean, not the drug part, but I guess I guess that whole saga of his life is probably really interesting. I wonder if there's a book about that. I'm sure there's fan books about it.
Maybe.
But
well, I guess. Did you have anything additional?
No, that was
I know we went off the rails a little bit.
No, that was good. I liked that though. That was good. Yeah, I guess just you guys know where to find us on Instagram and Twitter at ears_stamps, and then dogearsandtimestamps@gmail.com. Thanks for listening every week and reading along and doing all the good stuff. And you know how to find us on all the, you know, platforms for podcasts.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I guess that's about it. Read the final 20 chapters.
Yeah, and
chapters 40 through epilogue.
Yeah, and then pick up Mistborn and then read that, and then we'll talk about that.
Right.
No, but I would recommend it. It is good so far.
Yeah, I know Kenneth was talking about it on the way to Houston, saying it was pretty dope.
Yeah. So.
Well, we'll see y'all next week. I'm Will Hedrick.
I'm Jordan Schaffer.
This is Dog Ears and Timestamps.